The Earth's 7 continents can cause... Wait, no. 6 continents? Or is it this 6? Or 5? Point is, Earth's continents are confusing and poorly defined. In this series, I'm going to analyze where our many different interpretations of continents come from, and try to reconcile these with a new, simple and logical standard. Let's talk about the confusion with continents. America, or the Americas. Whether there are 1 or 2 continents here is frequently disputed, with most English countries, along with some parts of Asia and Africa, believing North and South America to be separate, whereas the rest of the world views them as just one. Their argument for 1 is simple and relies on our basic understanding of what a continent is. A continent is a big continuous landmass, and North and South America are ultimately connected, so they must be just one continent. In the eyes of this 6-continent worldview, regardless of just how narrow the connection may be, or the fact that the connection point is a dense, mountainous jungle with no human infrastructure, such that the only way to legally get between the Americas is by boat or plane, they are still connected, so they must be one. Perfectly logical. Until you look at a map of the rest of the world. At the same time as arguing the Americas are connected, the 6-continent worldview believes Europe, Asia, and Africa are all separate continents. But if you compare the physical connections, the isthmus connecting the Americas gets as narrow as 50 kilometers, whereas Africa and Asia are connected by 120 kilometers, and Europe and Asia are connected by an unbelievable 3,200 kilometers. If continuous landmasses is your most important factor in defining continents, how can Europe and Asia be connected by a stretch of land bigger than the continent of Australia? To me, the distinction between Europe and Asia in almost all worldviews is the most astonishing. A common argument that even I once believed is that they're just so culturally different. But if you think about it more, East Asia, South Asia, and arguably the Middle East are just as distinct from each other culturally as Europe is from them, with unique languages, writing scripts, religions, and physical characteristics. In fact, Indian linguistic and genetic history has much more in common with Europe than with East Asia, as they share the common ancestral language of Proto-Indo-European, or, more tastefully, Pi. The cultural argument for justifying the distinction between Europe and Asia is the result of a world whose modern form has European fingerprints all over it. It is the result of a Eurocentric worldview. To properly understand how this one large landmass is divided into Africa, Asia, and Europe, we cannot think about continents from a modern perspective, because the idea of distinguishing between large landmasses is ancient. Our current idea of what the continents are comes from a Eurocentric worldview, but the Eurocentric worldview is really an evolution of the ideas of the ancient Greeks. The ancient Greeks are where the names of Asia and Europe comes from, after all. The prevailing wisdom is that the origin of the name Europe has the same origin as the mythical Greek princess Europa, as a combination of 2 root words, Eurus and op. Ope? I don't know the right way to pronounce that. It's 3,000 years old, but together the words literally mean broad face, as a reference to the broad face of the European mainland when sailing the Aegean Sea. Possibly. Thus, Europe is the main landmass in the Greek worldview. The naming of Asia is simpler, and likely comes from the Asawa region, which was a group of towns on the eastern shore of the Aegean Sea. Over time, the Greeks began referring to the whole of the landmass on the eastern shore of the Mediterranean, Aegean, and Black Seas collectively as Asia. Europe was the landmass to the north and west, Asia was the landmass to the east, and Africa, called Libya by the Greeks, was the landmass to the south. In the limited geographical knowledge of the ancient Greek world, these actually were 3 separate landmasses as far as they were aware. The oldest known Greek world map comes from Anaximander around 550 BC. It clearly shows Europe, Asia, and Africa as separated by significant bodies of water. This original Greek belief is why Europe and Asia are still considered distinct today. As Greek knowledge grew over the centuries, they realized Europe and Asia did actually have a small physical connection. And then they realized they were immensely connected. Even back then, the geographer Herodotus questioned, "I cannot conceive why 3 names, and women's names especially, should ever have been given to a tract which is in reality one." Well, Herodotus, I'm not sure what you have against women, but I can tell you several hundred years of naming precedent was why 3 names were given to one landmass. And now, it's several thousand years of precedent. On the note of Africa's name change, its original Greek name of Libya, much like Asia, came from the name of the people who had lived in the area, the Libu. Africa was just the name later given by the Romans to their province centered on the conquered lands of their early rivals, the Carthaginians. The name Africa might have further originated from another tribe in that area or the Carthaginian word for dust, due to the nearby Sahara. Either way, this province's name spread to replace Libya as the whole continent's name, perhaps due to the wealth and cultural significance of the conquered Carthaginian territory to the Romans. Our modern boundary of Africa, though, has shifted from the earliest definitions. If you remember, the Greeks originally thought of the 3 main landmasses as separated, but Egypt is clearly connected to the Middle East, and the Greeks knew this. Their water body dividing Africa and Asia was the mighty Nile River, assumed to be so great it connected all the way to the ocean on the other side of Africa as well. How was the river water not salty like the ocean then? Whatever. It just goes to show how lacking Greek knowledge of the world really was. This means that historically, half of Egypt was in Asia and half was in Africa. As knowledge of the landmasses expanded in antiquity, some geographers viewed it as silly to split Egypt, and the border between Africa and Asia moved. To have all of Egypt in Asia? How crazy does that look on a map? Mildly sexist Herodotus thought this was another stupid idea and suggested the Red Sea and Suez Isthmus would be a more logical way to divide Africa and Asia, if you had to. Over the centuries, using the Nile as the divider became less intuitive, and Herodotus's idea has prevailed in most worldviews. Nice work, Herodotus. By understanding the ancient history of where the division between Europe, Asia, and Africa came from, we can see that these continents are not created from cultural divisions as many try to justify today, but by physical divisions, which were poorly understood at the time. In the subsequent parts of this series, we will see how poor geographic understanding at the times has ultimately led to confusion with defining all of our modern continents. But we might also find that the abstract physical boundaries we create to keep our continents separate may just help to find a better way of defining these great pieces of our world.